This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh, look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday's the day to stream on Sundays. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to Daylight Savings Time. If you haven't adjusted your clocks yet, no, I'm not an hour late. You're an hour behind. Or ahead. Either way. Oh boy. It is a morning, isn't it? I had forgotten myself that the time had to be switched. So I was a little off kilter. I was getting ready to start the stream an hour earlier than I should have. Haha. But I caught myself in time. So here we are. Who is joining me this morning, by the way? Matt Barnes, Jen T. Maxey, Spyro Girl, Somnamnul Nation, Zalbla, Swirl Blue, Noah Asensio, Johnny Hellcat, Jen T. Maxey. I already said that once, but hey, twice is fine. Kiever Dam. Oh, who else? And then chat jump, because of course it did. Cephtus Wolf. Let's see, who else? Arc 210. And Mike Savage, Blarg, No One Nowhere, Non-Vitae Rex, Green Death, Blake Hanley. Hope you're all doing well. So what do we have on deck for today? Well, I didn't get a whole lot of feedback from last week's stream that a part 2 was really desired. And truth be told, I wasn't all that excited about doing a part 2. I think we'd heard enough by that point. But there was something that came about in last week's episode that I promised I would at some point take a look at. And that was a phrase often repeated by the teachers therein. And that is the phrase critical reflective practice, or practices, as the case may be. What is that? I don't know. But we'll find out together. 1 second. Thank you, Point Curation. Tips for migraines, plus good morning, scribe and chat. Good morning, Point Curation. Tips for migraines. Cold compress on the back of your neck and the sides of your neck. And if you can find them, there are these little like cold press sticky jelly things you can put onto your forehead. You can usually find them on Amazon for relatively cheap in little boxes. I'd forget what they're called. But yeah, you want to cool down your sort of overall, the blood going to your brain, cool it down, ice pack on the back of your neck, hold it to the sides of your neck, that kind of stuff. That helps me. Also, if you have a migraine, obviously stay in a dark room, get away from bright lights, that kind of stuff. But beyond some very severe medication or otherwise, that's the best advice I have. Darkness and cooling of the blood going to the head. That first part might be not darkness, but cooling going to the blood of the head. That might be old wives' tale, but it at least gives me something to focus on when I'm not focusing on the pain. So there you go. But yes, last week. So critical reflective practice. What is that? Well, I don't know for sure. So I've collected 3 short videos, at least 2, maybe all 3, pertaining specifically to teachers, because that is the context in which we found out about it in the first place. And speaking of context clues. Here's my prediction. That given what the teachers were saying last week, and if you don't know what I'm talking about from last week, well, look up last week's Sunday stream. But given the context of what the teachers were saying last week, I am going to predict that critical reflective practice has something to do with sitting down, having a self-confession that you are a flawed human being who has biases, specifically racial biases, and that you have to come to terms with these racial biases by admitting that you possess them and moving past them, or working on the basis of race or gender or some other non-determinative factor that you obviously have a bias about because you are what you are, and then treating those people differently with kid gloves and or walking on eggshells because obviously you're going to treat them badly because you have those. That's kind of what I think it is. I think it's a self-interrogation, a self-inquisition of the flaws you're told that you obviously possess. And then taking that knowledge, quote unquote, and then interacting with the world in a different way based on these hesitations of your own flaws. Okay. Might not be the most succinct description, but that's my prediction. I could be wrong. I am happy to be wrong because then maybe I'll learn something. But anyway, that's the preamble. Let's get right into it. So each of these videos lasts about 3 minutes or so. We got a total of about 11 minutes worth of material to work with here. Not exactly a long combined video, but we'll be getting 3 different perspectives. Now, one warning, the third and last video, about half of it or a little bit more is a guy talking. And then the latter part is just quotes or phrases or information being played on top of music. Now, I don't know if the music is copyrighted, so I cut it out, but I kept the cards or the quotes or whatever for context sake, because maybe there's something in there that's relevant. So the last part's going to be quiet and me just basically reciting what I see on the screen and talking about it. But that's my only editing warning to be given, other than these 3 videos are all linked together. So as each one ends, I'll probably pause amongst everything else to reflect on what we've just learned. So all that being said, I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You tell me if you can hear this, and then we'll begin. Oh boy, do you hear the happy, tiptoe through the tulips type of music there? Let me know if you heard that real quick, and a few more hellos if I have them. Check your logic. Anybody else I missed? Robert Pincus, good morning. And anybody else that I missed a good morning to? Jaeger Pony, good morning. And anybody else who might be lurking, good morning. You guys all hear that? Sounds good. Goods to go. All right, here we go. Reflective practice, Louise. Oh, and by the way, just for those of you listening at home, this comes from CIPD. I don't know what that is, but championing better work and working lives is the tagline. All right, I want to have a better working life. Okay, so reflective practice with Louise.
I'm Louise, the head of L&D for a global financial services firm.
Okay, and you're British. Hello, governor. I'm British. British. Okay, so Louise, L&D. L&D. Is that like labor and... I don't know. Is that like HR in America? British people.
I have 3 little ones, and on top of that, I'm studying for my level 7.
I don't know what a level 7 is. Is that like college degree or something? Oh, British people.
I would describe myself as someone who's passionate about development of myself and others.
Okay.
I start MOOCs that I don't usually finish.
You start MOOCs, MOOC. Okay. All right. Is anybody in the chat British? Can explain these things to me and to the rest of the audience? Because I honestly am lost here. What is a level 7? What is a MOOC? What is L&D? What does any of this mean? Please, someone, if not in the chat now, in the comments for later so I can pin these definitions for reference.
I listen to podcasts on the way to work, and I read when I can.
Okay.
But my organisation's culture is all about results, so it's hard to justify stopping even for a moment to reflect.
Is there any organization that's not focused on results? I mean, what business or organization does not have a mission statement, and if they're doing their job, not being focused on results? Is that rare? Anyway, thank you, Hell Triangle, and good morning. Where was there a father in that family? Apparently not, or at least not worth mentioning, I guess. She could be a single mom. That's fine. Let's see. Oh, Tony Giff has information for me. Level 7 is 4 years of a college degree. Okay. I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew it was something like that, but I wasn't sure. So thank you for defining that. I still want to know what a MOOC is and L&D. But anyway.
About this time last year, I'd been given a few projects to run. And after the first 2 had been completed, I started to notice the same mistakes coming up time and time again.
Well, that's what insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I learned that from Far Cry 3. Actually, I knew about it before Far Cry 3, but Voss is such a cool bad guy. And thank you, Poker Pierce. Happy Sunday. Have a great scribe. Or sorry, have a great day, scribe in chat. Well, thank you, Poker Pierce. And Keeverdam, thank you so much. I looked it up, and MOOC stands for Massive Open Online Courses. Okay, so like a University of Phoenix kind of thing? Weird. Okay. Massive open online courses. I wonder if that can run in tandem with MMORPGs. Could you have a college course that is in and of itself an MMORPG? Wouldn't that be funny? Is that the metaverse that Facebook is working on right now? All right, so we know what a MOOC is. We know what a level 7 is. Don't know what L&D is, but I'm sure that's probably not as important. Anyway, so she did a couple of projects. She kept noticing the same mistakes.
There were miscommunications that could have been avoided.
Yes.
And generally, team morale was low. I hadn't been putting the time in to check in as much as possible.
Well, then you were doing a lousy job. Okay, yes. When you see that there is a problem, you should try to do something to resolve that problem. Yes, all right.
We hadn't been reviewing projects and learning the lessons before starting another one.
Yeah, that would be a problem. If you're not going to learn from your mistakes or review what you've done previously to find ways you can improve or make more efficient, then yeah, you're probably wasting some amount of time in the second round or third round or fourth. Yeah, okay.
And I realized then that the same was true for myself.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll get to that in a second. Thank you, Matt Barnes, again. Hello, Governor. After I get done shaming you, I'm headed to the dog and duck for a pint. Then to sweep me chimney. Hello, Mary Poppins. Thank you, Matt Barnes, for that phonetically challenging phrase. I appreciate it. Gave me a chance to practice my horrible British accent. Somewhere out there, Irate Alex is, I don't know, whining or something. Whinging. That's what he's doing, is whinging away.
I start so many things and I don't actually build in time to reflect on the assumptions I've made or how my feelings played a part in my decisions.
Okay, now, taking that by itself for a second, yes, being reflective about yourself, about your life, about the things that you encounter. Like, for example, I'll just talk about myself because I'm the only anecdote that I actually know very well. It would often be the case as I was growing up and not being very socially, let's say, adept as some other people, that I would, after a social encounter where I was nervous or shy or something else, on reflection, I would say to myself, I don't like the way that I reacted to that situation. I don't like that I was shy, or I don't like that I said this, or that I didn't say this, that kind of thing. And so I would resolve in my own mind that the next time that happens, I should do this. I should make a resolution to do this differently because I didn't appreciate how I behaved the last time. Not that I behaved in a bad way or something, but just like I wasn't as out of my shell as I wanted to be. Now, saying that to yourself and actually doing it the next time are two different things. It is not a light switch process, at least not for most people, as far as I know. But making the conscious resolution to be aware of what you're doing when you do it and so on is a step forward than where you started. And it's kind of a game of inches, but bit by bit, day by day, you can make changes to become a more, appreciable version of yourself. Whether that version of yourself actually works in the future, you'll find out as you get there. But if you take the time to think about, what did I do? Did it go well? Did it go badly? If it went badly, how much of that badly was my fault? How much of it was someone else's fault? Every relationship that falls apart, for the most part, there's a two to tango kind of situation. Not always, but a lot of time. And being honest about where your participation started or ended in the whole thing, being honest with yourself is beneficial. Okay, there's my self-help moment for the moment.
I found a reflective practice group, which initially felt very unnatural, but I had to be completely honest with a total stranger.
Okay. I mean, if you need a group to elicit that kind of process or, have a second opinion, okay, that's fine. I guess it's better than therapy, but a reflective practice group. maybe it's just a point of pride for myself, but I just made the conscious decision to make the attempt to advance myself in life without any handhold. Like if I can't do it on my own, because I'm going to have to spend more time with myself than anybody else. If I can't self-regulate some of that or most of that stuff by myself, it doesn't really feel genuine. Am I doing it for me, or am I doing it on the instruction of someone else? I guess, again, this isn't advice for anybody else. This is just kind of how I saw it growing up.
But it was liberating.
Okay.
I felt safe to admit my mistakes, and saying some of my thoughts out loud was quite a wake-up call.
Okay.
There were a load of underlying thoughts and feelings that I just sort of affirmed by virtue of keeping them locked up.
Okay.
Since then, I use the same techniques in my alone time.
All right.
And also build them into regular team discussions and project reviews.
Okay.
Long story short, the quality of our work has vastly improved.
Yes, looking back on what you did and thinking about how you could change or improve is good. So, all right. And good morning, Mr. Tickletrunk. Thank you so much for the happy, dancy, smiley, lovely dog cat fox. Oh, dog cat fox.
Wow! Hey! Wow! Wow!
Speaking of the British, or thereabouts, thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. But, okay, so, I think this only has another minute or two to it, if that. Yes, okay, the concept of self-reflection and assessment is not a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Now, what I'm going to be curious to see in the other videos, depending on where this one goes, is the motivation that is supposed to be behind it. Because this is just talking about effectively self-improvement, right? Or teamwork improvement, or results improvement. Whether you're talking about life or your job, not a bad thing. In fact, a very productive thing. Can be a very productive thing, but it can be twisted into something not productive. So let's see where we go with this.
I now see my work challenges differently. I see them all as learning opportunities.
Yes.
And we have a sense of shared ownership without blame when things go wrong.
You don't know if you want to take away blame. You got to hold people accountable. And I know we hear the word like being held accountable a lot, but there are, serious and practical instances where you need to have people take responsibility for their part in the thing. So, yeah, don't make it sound too rosy.
Better yet, my manager has also seen a difference. He's totally sold on it, and he's organised for my colleagues to attend reflective practice workshops too.
Okay.
I'd recommend as a key skill for anyone at any stage in their career. I have no doubt that if you can find a way to ritualise reflection, sharing and learning in your teams and in your life, you will get results.
Reflecting by thinking alone isn't enough. You may only reaffirm your existing thought process.
Whoa. Wait. Let's back up. Reflecting by thinking alone isn't enough. You may only reaffirm your existing thought process. Yeah. And here's the thing. Okay. Here's the thing. If you resolve, okay, I'll just use an active example from my own life. I went to a party. Okay. I was shy and I didn't talk to people and I ended up being a wallflower. All right. After that party, I said to myself, boy, I came out there feeling really lousy about myself for not trying to have fun, trying to talk to people, trying to be more social. I need to be more social. Okay. So the next party or something I end up at, I resolve to be more social. Next party I go to, I make the attempt, but then I back away. And I stop myself after that next party and I say, okay, look, you idiot. You said you were going to do something different and you didn't. You need to do it right. And then the next time I was a little braver. And the next time I was a little braver. See, okay, if you assume that doing the reflective process one time on one situation is all you need to do and then never do it again, yeah, you're not going to make any change. Nothing's going to improve. I do think, however, there is a greater value in doing this kind of thing and achieving results of this kind of thing, mostly by yourself, so that you know you did it. You didn't have your hand held. You weren't taking somebody's advice. You weren't just mimicking someone else's version of events or anything. I think there is a greater value and more opportunities for self-esteem building if you can make improvements and changes to yourself, for yourself, by yourself. Now, that's not necessarily true for everyone. That won't necessarily work for everyone. And I have absolutely no evidence to tell you that I am a better me now than if I had been having someone helping me along. I don't know. I can't know. I don't have that evidence, but that's my opinion. So take it as you will.
You may only reaffirm your existing thought process. Reflective practice requires routine reflection in order to create a shift in behavior.
That is true. It's not a one-time, one-deal deal. It's a lifelong habit. Stopping after something happens, assessing it, thinking about how things went down, could it have gotten differently based on anything that you did, and then moving on. The real trick is not getting stuck in dwelling on everything or second guessing yourself at every stage. That's the risk. Because if you get too self-reflective, you could get a little paranoid about making any move and then not do anything, either productive or otherwise. So it's a weird balancing act.
Yeah. There are lots of ways to do reflective practice, not just in a group.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to pass on the benefits of reflective practice to your team by nurturing a culture of reflective practice.
I mean, just the simple phrase, learn from your mistakes, is kind of the, boilerplate reflective practice mantra. Something goes wrong, think about why it went wrong, try to not do it in the future. All right. Be able to relate what you've learned from past mistakes to future events. That's called wisdom. Yes. Okay. This is all perfectly fine, generally speaking. Okay. That was it. So that's the end of that first video. Okay. So that was an introduction to critical reflective practice. And, truth be told, taken by itself, not a bad thing. Nothing insidious about it. So what did that have to do with the teachers from last week? Well, the second video we're about to see, at least from its title, supposedly focuses on critically reflective practices for teachers. All right. So I got something that was an introduction. Now we're going to find out, at least in one version, how it's meant to apply to education. So let's see where we go with that. Okay, critical reflection in practice from Australian Children's Education and Care Quality Authority. Get all that? All right.
Critical reflection to me is about continuous improvement through looking at what we're currently doing and creating strategies to move forward. It's
okay, that sounds about online with the previous definition.
About looking at why we're doing what we're doing and how that's benefiting the children and what we can do moving forward.
Okay.
Critical reflection is the process of ongoing questioning, asking why, evaluating, really driving that continuous improvement process, identifying areas of improvement and implementing change.
Okay, yes, I agree with all of that so far. Now, again, I don't know if anything weird's going to be told to us in the next few minutes. I'm just, waiting for the other shoe to drop, given what we were told last week.
It's an ongoing process, critical reflection.
Yes, ongoing.
And it's embedded.
Yeah.
Gets the educators to ask questions, the why, the how, and then also looking through the eyes of the child, the families, even the community and our educators to improve our practice.
In what way? I mean, okay. How does it apply to education, teachers, children, etc.?
Recently, our service looked at critical reflection through our routines. We came together and discussed why do we do certain activities at certain times and what the benefits these have on the children. Through doing this and critically reflecting and asking those questions, we found that we didn't need to have set times as part of our routines. So taking that out was a great step that we used through using the critical reflection.
I mean, okay, I guess it would depend on what kind of routines you're talking about, but instilling in children the sense of a routine, a sense of keeping on schedule, a sense of punctuality, a sense of getting things done within a certain span of time. I think there's some benefit to that. Having a changed up random schedule every day of just, potpourri of activity. I don't know. I'm not an educator, so what do I know?
We really reflect upon ensuring that we listen to the children's voices. So we reflected upon why we're insisting on inside play, that all the children are doing inside play, or all the children are doing outside play, when the children were letting us know through their cues and their voices that some of the children wanted to be inside and not outside.
I would assume that making sure all the kids are in one observable space is so that they can all be observed and supervised at one time, and that you're not having to split staffing attention between two different areas at two different times. I mean, that's the practical part of me talking. I don't know if that's actually relevant or not, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind. But okay.
We critically reflected upon who was this really benefiting? Was it benefiting the educators or was it benefiting the children?
Well, if you send the kids out to recess and you have the recess teachers watching the kids, the teacher can take a break to do other administrative things or have a snack or get a mental break. It kind of benefits both because you have children who are engaging in play, so they're socializing, getting exercise or some other activity, and you're sort of, taking some pressure off of either one teacher or another to get some other things done. That's my thought. That's how it worked when I was a kid. I don't know if that's how it works now or in Australia, but that's, yeah.
If we wanted to really support our philosophy on children have rights and a voice, we needed to change what we were doing, and we put strategies into place to assist that.
How?
So without critical reflection, the children would still be having to play inside when we wanted them to play inside and outside when it was time to play outside.
But then you just said that some kids wanted to play inside and some kids wanted to play outside. So do you have a designated time for one, the other, or a choice of both? I think that kind of contradicted itself, but maybe I'm just a little off this morning. Thank you again, Hell Triangle. At least they haven't mentioned affinity groups. No, thankfully, no. I'm not expecting that they will, but you never know. Okay, so far, nothing weird. I mean, the specificity of what they're applying, quote unquote, critical reflective practices to in this case seems a little off to me, but the theory, the philosophy of it is still sound. Okay.
Giving people time to actually spend on reflection is really important.
Yeah.
We've been allocating time at staff meetings to make sure that teams had time to critically reflect together as a team.
Yeah.
And then obviously educators had time to do their own reflection.
Okay.
Reflective practice to us was always something that we did surrounding the program or surrounding really big events that were happening, and we felt like we needed to reflect on them. Through recent changes to our practice, critical reflection is all about looking at what we're doing every day.
I mean, there's a danger of micromanaging and getting caught up in the minutia if you're trying to read between the lines of a cookbook. But again, like I say, the basic notion is not a bad one. I'm just curious to know more examples of how they're applying it or how they're implementing it, I suppose.
Advice I would give to a service who would like to improve on critical reflection is to see it as a tool of improvement and embrace it to make positive change. It's so beneficial to educators to feel confident in having discussions and really reflect on their practices.
Maybe it's just me, and I know I keep interrupting, but like I said before, learn from your mistakes. That's kind of it's a phrase you learn very early on in life. Now, some people embrace that, some people don't. Some people never learn from their mistakes and so on. But is this really such an uncommon or not often implemented thought process? I mean, maybe some people do it reflexively and don't have a name for it. It's one of those things where it's like, do we have to have the phrase common sense because obviously it's not that common kind of thing? And I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that since it's so popular and it has a name and everything, that it's some kind of weird magical potion for some people. But to me, it's just, like I say, it just seems so basic and such a building block of basic rationality. It seems weird that it needs to have a name and a process and a group, and you have to sort of make people do it. Maybe it's just a sign of the times. I don't know.
And reflect on what is happening for the children and the families within the service.
The advice I would give to centres who are starting out on their journey with critical reflection would be to use the resources that are available, and particularly on the ASEQA website. Perhaps just using those reflective questions that are available initially, and once you've mastered that, then educators can easily reflect themselves.
Again, does it really require that much hand-holding to sit down and think about things that have happened in the past and brainstorm with your coworkers or whatever? I mean, if we're talking about being on the job, about what went down, what we can do to improve in the future, is it okay?
My advice for any service that wants to move towards writing more in-depth critical reflections is to do as much research as you can.
Yeah.
Become confident yourself as a leader so that you can support your staff in critical reflection.
Okay.
They will see the change and those positive outcomes for the children, and it won't take long before it's part of your daily practice.
Okay. Like I say, there's nothing. I was expecting something much more ideological, obviously. I'm cynical enough to admit it and to have anticipated it. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the third video, but okay. So, critical reflective practice. Learning from your mistakes. Right? It's sort of like restorative justice. Shake hands and part as friends, or kiss and make up, right? Very, very simple sort of foundational phrases to growing up, made into larger, more complex concepts. Okay. I mean, I'm learning something. So when someone says critical reflective practice, just because the word critical is in there, given the fact that it has a much more sinister connotation lately with critical race theory, critical is not always a bad thing, is what we could learn. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Again, reflecting used to be called brainstorming and was done within the teacher circles as well with the parents. This does seem like common sense. Yeah, I mean, repackaging it and calling it something different. And here's another thing, and I've said this before on Twitter, but I'm seeing this more and more. So we did JEDI a few weeks back. Remember? Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Except Scientific American said that that's not kosher because that's too corporate. So the other word that's coming up more and more and more, and I brought this up on a Twitter post several weeks ago, belonging. Okay? Belonging. Justice, I think, might take a back seat to belonging as the new word to add to the alphabetical jumble. So we're going to rebrand JEDI as DEBI, diversity, equity, belonging, and inclusion. If there is not a Debbie process in the near future, I'm going to be shocked. And if there isn't, I should certainly start one, because belonging, getting mentioned a lot in some of the things I'm looking at recently. But yeah, brainstorming, problem solving, review. Yeah, putting a fancy set of words on it for a process that is just sort of innate to problem solvers or thinking people. I guess it's not a new concept in order to try to make a buck or something. But okay, anyway, so that was one teacher's aspect to it. Nothing sounded untoward there. It, like I said, basic sort of, learning as you go in life. Okay, what does our third speaker have for us? Okay, teacher reflective practice. This must have been what caught my attention. Not critical reflective practice, but teacher reflective practice. All right.
I think the only way we can improve teacher quality is to create a culture of continuous improvement.
Well, I think that's probably true for every person, organization, and otherwise. I mean, in order to form a more perfect union, What else is living and growing and working through life but some attempt at improvement along the way? Few people are looking to work towards their self-destruction. You know, maybe they unknowingly do so, but few people say, golly, I'm going to get up today and try to make my life worse than it was yesterday. I'm sure that fetish exists. In fact, I think I know that it exists somewhere. But yeah, as Matt Orchard pointed out or surmised about Anthony Weiner, there's some people out there that just want to continually fail. But yeah, okay, yes, teachers, educational practices, we want to improve, yes.
And that is given lip service in many districts, but nobody's really facing up to what it really means in practice.
Oh, okay. What does it mean really in practice to improve every day, aside from never wearing that tie again?
You see, I think that every teacher needs to get better. In many districts, they target help at the teachers who need support, who need help, who are having difficulties. Well, you know what? Every teacher has difficulties.
Yes, life is life to everyone, but some people are worse at their jobs than others. So what, you want to normalize teacher deficiency? Someone who's doing ridiculously badly should be treated the same way as someone who's doing, they're doing pretty good. Is that it? You want to dedicate resources evenly across the board, even though some might need more than others? Ooh, are we talking equity here?
Every teacher fails on a daily basis.
Oh my God, what a depressing thought. Every teacher fails on a daily basis? In what way?
If you're not failing on a daily basis, you're just not paying attention.
Okay, well, I guess it depends on what you're defining as success, moment to moment and task to task. Sure, you know, like if I get up in the morning and I in the dark, I sort of feel around with my foot for my slippers, right? And I put my foot into the wrong slipper, like I put my right foot in the left slipper. I guess I've failed. What are you talking about?
Because we fail all the time.
Yeah.
Many of you will walk out of this room absolutely convinced I said stuff I know I didn't say.
What? Convinced I said stuff I know I didn't. What? So a faulty memory is failing? Or, I mean, making up things that didn't happen is a kind of, what?
As teachers, we fail all the time. We teach these brilliant lessons, we take in the notebooks, we look at what the kids had written, and we wonder what planet they were on when we were teaching this stuff.
Well, yeah. And then you use critical reflective practice to say, is it me or is it the student? Right? Because if one student out of 10 says something from another planet, but all the other ones got it, then it might be the case that that one student needs some extra support. Or what are we even is this like one of those speakers that just like says things that sound meaningful and or entertaining, but they get paid for doing basically nothing?
Our daily experience as teachers is a failure, which makes it the best job in the world.
Because we have so much improvement to make.
Because you never get any good at it.
Well, okay. No one knows how to lead a perfect life. Right? Life is always going to present you with challenges one way or the other. So yeah, you always work at it. Yeah, okay. I've told this story before. I had a professor in college, and he said one of the most meaningful things to me at the time. It was one of those things where, you know, inherently I kind of understood the concept, but it wasn't until someone articulated it that it kind of gelled in my head. And he told a story one time about how he got in contact, I think through Facebook or something at the time, or the internet, whatever, with an old college friend that he hadn't seen in many years. And he wanted to catch up with this friend. So he drove out to his friend's house, and his friend had this amazingly nice house, this big, McMansion kind of thing. And the guy had married a beautiful woman, and he had two healthy and gorgeous children. And he had, the white picket fence and the dog and great job and a great car and the whole 9 yards. And so he has lunch with his friend and his family at his house. And then after lunch, the two of them, him and his college friend, are sitting on the porch sharing a beer or something. And my professor turns to his old college friend after observing this amazing sort of setup he's got and all the things that he's accomplished in the time since they saw each other last. And he says, are you happy? And the college friend actually pauses and thinks about it and says, well, I mean, I'm not sad. I guess, I don't know if I'm happy. And my professor interpreted this sort of interaction like this. He said, there are finite goals, temporal goals, and then there are infinite goals. Finite goals. I want that house. I want that car. I want that job. I got, these things right in front of me. And then there are infinite goals. There are goals of the self that can never really be attained because it's an ongoing process, constant improvement, constant discovery, right? Like being a better you. What does that look like? You don't know. Just go forward and feel better about yourself, or do things that make you feel better about yourself in an ongoing process, bit by bit, day by day. Infinite goal. So yes, there is an infinite goal when it comes to self-improvement. And when it comes to education, I'm sure there is no perfect way to do it because it's a very amorphous, abstract concept. Being a better teacher, what does that mean? Well, you're learning as you go through life, just as the kids are. So sure, being a teacher could be an infinite goal, or being a good teacher, I should say. So, okay, you got me. Why are you wearing that tie?
At one time, Andre Previn was the highest paid film score composer in Hollywood. And one day he walked into his office and he quit. And people said, why did you quit this amazing job? He said, I wasn't scared anymore. Every day he was going into his office knowing his job held no challenges for him. This is something you are never going to have to worry about.
I suppose that also might be true. You perfect your craft or something. Also, why a lot of people quit MMORPGs, because there's no challenge left. They've reached end game content and they've done it all 17 times. There's nothing more to do. Sure. If you get bored, if you're not having fun, and you have the ability to, whatever it is that you're not having fun doing, you should probably stop doing it. If it's becoming more of a hassle than it is a joy, stop doing it. If the cons are outweighing the pros, stop doing it. If you can. Obviously, some situations you don't have that choice, but okay, yes. Becoming a better teacher is an infinite goal. There is no necessarily right answer, depending. Okay.
This job you're doing is so hard that one lifetime isn't enough to master it.
Mm-hmm.
So every single one of us needs to accept the commitment to carry on improving our practice until we retire or die.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Okay, and now we go to the quotes. All right, well, the first quote, the unexamined life isn't worth living. Socrates, 450 BC. Yeah, okay. I don't know if I'll have anything more interesting to say as we go through these quotes or whatever, but all right. So that's quote number 1. Yes, it continues going forward, zooming in. Yes, into my brain. Let's see, the next one. By 3 methods, we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. Confucius apparently said this. That is also true, I think. Next, education is about learning, not only student learning, but also staff learning. Learning is a function of reflection. Learning in life is a function of reflection. Anything. Yes, reflecting on what you did before. How do you learn to do something? You try it. You make mistakes. You learn from it. For example, I was just thinking about this morning as I'm starting to work bit by bit on my next true crime video. I think about all the stuff I've learned that to some, professional video editor or something is probably the most simple sort of basic stuff. All the stuff that I've learned just in the last couple of months. Doing those Jim Jones videos. If you watch them, they're not exactly complicated. It's images and it's text on the screen. But if you think for a moment that I had to insert all of those images, I had to adjust the zoom and in and out of all those images as the video goes, that I had to, orientate and place the subtitles in each frame effectively of the video as it goes. All of these things required a separate process, a separate series of steps to take in order to achieve that very momentary and or simple action. And prior to doing those videos, I'd never done those things before. And so now I know how to do them. And having done them a few times, I learned easier ways to do them as I went. Not because I had a teacher, but just because I observed this isn't working for me. Is there an easier way to do it? And I figured out some shortcuts that still achieve the same result without sacrificing quality. That's how you learn. And I never imagined a year ago or something that I'd be working hours and hours and hours to overlay subtitles to audio of a suicidal religious cult. But I've done it now. I have that experience and I've learned something. How much will I employ it in the future? Well, here's the thing. You may have seen in my second true crime video that I had different subtitles than I did in my first true crime video. That's because in my first true crime video, I was using Photoshop to make transparent images of text because I didn't know how to do subtitles correctly in the software that I have. So by the time that I got to my second true crime video and having done hours and hours of Jim Jones commentary subtitles, I knew a better way to do it. And I saved myself a lot of time and headaches. That's just an example in my own life of having tried something I had no idea how to do, and by, trial and error, finding a better way to do it and learning something in the process. So there you go. What's our next quote? Yeah, learning is a function of reflection. Okay. Yes. Okay. Reflective practice is as much a state of mind as it is a set of activities. Yes, as I said before, it's kind of something that has to be passively going on inside you as you proceed through life to get the best out of it. Again, you can't wallow in every single detail or second guess yourself every moment. But like I said, it's a balancing act that everybody's got to find for themselves. Quote below that, every teacher needs to improve, not because they are not good enough, but because they can be even better. You could replace teacher with person right there. Every person needs to improve, not because they're not good enough, but because they can be even better. Yeah. In however you define better for yourself. Yes. Now, this is actually kind of a self-help beneficial presentation I've seen today, unlike many others I've looked at. Rather than reflective practice being seen as impractical, passive, or irrelevant to action, I think it can be passive. It doesn't always have to be passive, but it can be regarded as centrally important and relevant to the understanding of ongoing action. Yeah, like almost as if it's a passive way, just a reflexive way of moving through life. But, okay. Yeah. Okay. Not sure I have anything to add to that one. Let's see. Expert teachers are more focused on solving problems with respect to individual students' performance in the class, whereas the experienced teachers generally focus their decision on the entire class. Okay, admittedly, I'm not an educator. I've never been an official teacher, but some kids need special attention. Some kids are better at math than other kids, and the same classroom might have kids that are better at reading than the kids that are better in math. And so their decision on the entire class. Well, I guess it depends on what we're talking about, I suppose. But okay. I'm not sure I agree with that quote, but I don't have a lot of context for it. So there you go. Too rarely do teachers see student feedback as reflecting on their expertise as teachers. Well, I guess it depends on how much ego the teacher has versus their ability to take criticism. Yeah. Again, a lot of these things you could apply to just life in general, not just being a teacher, but okay. Keep going. Yes, we're waiting for the next one. Growth goals are a key element to becoming a reflective teacher. Yes, seeing how you did previously and wanting to improve and having some idea of what you want to improve towards. Yes. Observing and discussing teaching is an important element of the development of teaching expertise. I agree. If you can talk with other colleagues about your particular vocation to try to improve your, Education is a constant reorganization, reconstruction, and transformation of experience. Sure. So's life. A lot of these things aren't just about education, but sure. How much longer do we have on this? Oh, Lord. A couple more minutes or a minute or two. Life is not linear. It is organic. We created our lives symbiotically as explore our talents. What? I will read it as it is written. Life is not linear. It is organic, comma. We created our lives symbiotically as explore our talents in relation to the circumstances they help to create for us. And you mean and explore our talents? I'm not sure. Okay. What quote resonates with you? Ooh, I don't know. What quote resonates with me? Give me a ping, Vasily. One ping only, please. Okay, well, that's it. That's all I collected. I wanted to know what the literal definition of critically reflective practice was and whether or not it was as at least implicitly insidious as our previous presenters prognosticated, if I'll carry the alliteration forward. And, well, at its base, it's not. At its base, it is not a bad thing. It is not inherently a damaging thing. In fact, it's something that I would wholeheartedly promote in everyone. Learn from your mistakes. Think about what you've done, how you reacted, or how something went down and what your part was in it, and be honest with yourself about it. And if it's something that you can improve and it's something that you want to improve, make a resolution to improve it or change it or whatever. Try to become a better version of yourself bit by bit, day by day. Don't get discouraged if you don't get it done like that. It takes time, but as long as you're keeping it in mind as you proceed, you'll probably be better off than you were when you started. Sure. Okay. So there you go, guys. That is critically reflective practice. So that is what is meant when someone says it or uses that phrase. Now, as we go forward, see, this is actually a reflection of critically reflective practice. Now that we know what this is meant to mean, right, we can hold this up against future declarations of its use. And we can ask ourselves, is that correct? Is that the healthy way to look at it? Is this being implemented as a phrase or a practice towards something that is not beneficial or is feeding into an agenda and so on? Okay. See, this is how it all works. We've learned something new, and hopefully we can apply it to future events for comparison and contrast. So there you are, everyone. That's about as educational as I can get today in my virtual classroom here. I'll take a minute here to take on any comments or questions you guys might have, and then we will wrap this up. Bridget, scribe, you don't want any other professional giving this talk. If a nuclear engineer says I fail every day, you'd be absolutely mortified. See, there has to be a certain level of benefit of the doubt given to every human being, that everybody is going to make mistakes, right? Everyone's going to make mistakes in life. If you're in a position of authority or control over something important, presumably, and I underline the word presumably, you in some way, shape, or form have proven that more often than not, you know what you're doing. But as we know from elected office, That isn't necessarily so. Mr. Tickletrunk, I learned a thing. Yay, we learned something. That's what I like to do here. I like to learn things. Even if it's through hearing somebody say something ridiculous, on reflection, we can learn the converse. Ryan R., life is organic and also a box of chocolates. Mama always said. Seftus Wolf, incorrect. If something I do doesn't go right, the universe made a mistake. Yes, well, that is apparently what's going on with the film The Eternals right now. It's not a bad movie. It's not that it was awkwardly put together or has a whole bunch of mishmash and stuff in it or poorly put out. No. It's the audience who is wrong. That's what I'm hearing. Hi, M. Steve. I came in just before the second video, and it seems to me they just put critical in front of reflection to make it more important. That is, yeah, that's my suspicion. Like we were saying earlier, repackaging something that is just effectively common sense, but putting a fancy title in front of it, and then talking about it as though it's some kind of innovation. Not exactly a new thing. Whether or not it's a scam, dunno. But yeah, put critical in front of it. Yeah, is that can be, let's see. What else can we come up with? For those of you who are listening in the future and after this show, think of a common sense process, a regular everyday process that we can make new by putting critical in front of it. As in, how about, critical traffic navigation. You like that? Critical traffic navigation. Looking both ways before crossing the street. How about that? How about that? I bet I could sell that somewhere. I bet I could sell that somewhere. Boy, oh boy. I'm good at this, aren't I? Data Wasteland. How could I ignore your capital letters? Scribbles, hi. We had the first cold front move through Miami for this winter. What is a cold front in Miami? Like 72? I don't know how Miami works. I've never been to Florida, so I don't know. But if you say so. And Keeverdam, critical reflective practice, CRP, is one letter away from crap. But here's the thing. It's not. That's the thing. I mean, the title might be all buzzwordy, but the actual, thing at the core of it is perfectly fine and perfectly reasonable and actually something that, I might not have the title of it in my brain when I was growing up, but that's, learn from your mistakes. Put very simply, but that's kind of what it comes down to. Spiral Girl, critical folding of clothes. No, it's critical textile manipulation. Gotta get wordy. Gotta up your vocabulary game with this. You gotta make it almost seem opaque as to what are they talking about. And then you start describing it and you're like, oh, that's the challenge. That's the challenge. Data Wasteland, critical cold front equals 50s. That's cold for, oh my God, you guys are spoiled. But anyway, everyone, I'm going to end it here. We've learned something. We have a reference point for future discussions. And for those of you that hadn't thought about being critically reflective about yourselves, well, now you have a buzz phrase to latch onto. Isn't that fun? But with that, everyone, I'm going to end it here. Thank you all for joining me this morning on this daylight savings morning, as disruptive as that is. By the way, programming note, tomorrow, Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, a special edition of TED Excellence. And joining me will be In Human Form, because, unlike myself, In Human Form has some knowledge about economics and sort of economic philosophy, specifically Marxism, because there is some implication that the presentation we'll be looking at tomorrow is someone trying to pitch capitalism to achieve Marxist ends or something? I'm not sure. That's why I needed a wingman on this, because if I went it solo, I'd be lost in the woods. So look forward to that tomorrow, Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I will probably still have a TED Excellence on this coming Thursday as well, but stay tuned for that. But otherwise, everyone, Thank you for joining me today. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. By the way, one last thing. Check on the screen now and check in the chat if you're looking at it. Look up the GoFundMe for our friend Zalbla. She is just a few dollars away from getting to her goal. She's trying to get a new start on life, and she just needs a little help. She's almost there. If you guys have a moment or a couple of spare bucks, please take a moment to look at that and think about donating. So thank you so much for that. And with that, everyone, again, thank you for joining me. Hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.